This was back in 2015, when Kim Jong-un's older brother Kim Jong-Chul was spotted at Eric Clapton's concert in London. Standing beside him was the man responsible for his personal security and the main character of today's story, Thae Yong-ho. At the time, Thae was serving as North Korea's deputy ambassador to the United Kingdom, fully in charge of Kim Jong-chul's accommodation, meals, and the security arrangement during his stay in Britain. But it was precisely during the mission that Thae caught a glimpse into the secret of the Kim family, a glimpse that would change his life forever. Not long after he defected from North Korea, and once free, he revealed what he had seen. The untold stories about Kim Jong-un and his brother Kim Jong-chul that the world had never heard before. Hi everybody, I'm Tony. Before we start, please smash that like button, hype this video, and subscribe to this channel. My channel needs your support to fight off those North Korean bots. Thanks in advance for helping out. Today's episode is based on Thae's memoir, Passcode to the Third Floor, an insider's account of life among North Korea's political life. I've added the affiliate link in the description. Even if you don't buy the book but use my link to get anything on Amazon, I will still earn a small commission, and that's really helps support this channel. Let's rewind to March 2015. One day while Thae Yong-ho sat quietly in his office at the North Korea's embassy in London, he suddenly received a phone call. On the other end of the line, the caller said, "Comrade Thae, across the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there is a building facing Jinyo Square. On the 4th floor, the father of one of the female staff members wants you to take care of something. The details are in an email. Remember your name and the things you bring when traveling abroad." If you are thinking, what the hell does this even mean? You are not alone. It makes absolutely no sense on the surface. That's because this entire call was coded language. Since the conversation of North Korea diplomats are constantly monitored by intelligence agencies from multiple countries, any mission coming from the top is usually delivered in code. So the moment Thae picked up the phone, he immediately realized this was a direct instruction from Pyongyang's leadership. And here is what the coded message actually meant. Across from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in the direction of Jinyo Square, there was a building with two key offices on the 4th floor. The party committee and the cadre department. If the party committee summoned you, it usually means you are in serious trouble. The kind of disciplinary issue where you might not even make it home from work on that day. But if the cadre department called you, that was good news. It usually meant a promotion or some kind of career advancement. Unfortunately, in North Korea, the odds of getting executed are tens, even hundreds of thousands of times higher than being promoted. So when the caller mentioned the 4th floor of Jinyo Square, Thae Yong-ho broke into a cold sweat. It almost always referred to the party committee, and nothing good ever came from there. Then there was that strange line, the father of a female employee. What did that mean? At the ministry, there are only two female staff members in the party committee. One was elderly, Thae didn't know her, but the other was the daughter of Park Sung-hak, one of the most powerful men in North Korea, the chief secretary in Kim Jong-un's 3rd floor secretariat. They serve as Kim's top private aide. Any directive from Kim Jong-un would be issued through Park's office, which means this phone call wasn't just any ordering message. It was a direct order from Kim Jong-un himself. But when he finally opened the email, trembling with fear, he found the message itself completely blank, except for one attachment, a Word document. He downloaded the Word document, but when he tried to open it, a password prompt appeared. A password? What could it be? Then he remembered the code line from the phone call. Remember your name and the thing you bring when traveling abroad. So he typed in his name followed by his passport number, and the file opened smoothly. Inside, there are just two words, callback. So basically, after all that drama, that was it. Park Sung-hak simply wanted Thae to give him a call. But why go through such a complicated process? On the surface, it was avoid being monitored. But on a deeper level, it was something else. This is a classic example of imperial politics. You see, ancient Chinese emperors loved to give ambiguous instructions. Cryptic comments open to interpretation. Whoever could correctly decipher the emperor's true meaning and shows loyalty in the process would be seen as both faithful and intelligent, and often rewarded with greater trust and power. North Korea's political culture works exactly the same way. It thrives on this kind of vague authority. Nothing is said outright. You are expected to read between the lines. When Park Sung-hak sent Thae his coded message, he wasn't just delivering an order, he was testing him at the same time. Could Thae understand the hidden meaning? Was he perceptive and loyal enough to be trusted? Maybe even brought closer to the center of power? And as it turned out, Thae passed the test. Soon the first mission arrived. Thae was instructed to purchase 6 of best seats for Eric Clapton's concert at the Royal Albert Hall held on May 20th and 21st, 2015. 4 tickets in the center and 1 on each side. He was also told this was a matter of special importance to the Supreme Leader's personal security, and that he must not inform the ambassador or his family. The moment Thae heard this, he instantly realized who the leader was. It had to be Kim Jong-Chul, Kim Jong-un's elder brother. He was a massive Eric Clapton fan. Everyone in North Korea's elite circles knew this secret. Back in 2008, when Kim Jong-il was still alive, he instructed the embassy in London to invite Clapton to perform in Pyongyang. As the North Korea's deputy ambassador to the UK, Thae issued €1 million to Clapton's agent in an attempt to make it happen. But Clapton's team declined. They said, if it were for anyone else, we might consider it. But for a dictator, no amount of money would be enough. At the time, Kim Jong-chul was actually seen as the most likely successor to his father. Why? Kim Jong-chul was the eldest son after the downfall of the once crown prince Kim Jong-un. Secondly, because unlike Kim Jong-un, he was handsome, soft-spoken, and had the same delicate feature that Kim Jong-il once prided himself on. If you look at old photos of Kim Jong-il in his youth, aside from being short, he was actually quite a charming man. So in his mind, it made perfect sense that a handsome old man should pass power to handsome young men. But that whole incident broke Kim Jong-chul's heart. He was so devastated that he cried for days. And when Kim Jong-il saw his son weeping like that, he was furious. Think about it. Kim Jong-il was the kind of man who, when a South Korean director refused his invitation, Kim Jong-il kidnapped him instead and forced him to make movies in Pyongyang. To him, a son who cried over disappointment looked weak and unfit to rule. So eventually he abandoned Kim Jong-chul as his successor and passed the power to his younger son, Kim Jong-un. However, Thae first decided to report this mission to his superior, the ambassador. Technically, that was a violation of orders. But the reality was, without the ambassador's knowledge, the mission simply couldn't be carried out. For instance, even something as simple as going to the concert hall to buy tickets required the ambassador's written approval. No North Korean diplomat was ever allowed to leave the embassy without authorization. Thae didn't want to make up an excuse. The ambassador was not stupid. And he also didn't want to look like he was taking all the credit for something this sensitive. It turns out, Thae's instincts were correct. When the ambassador heard about it, he was just as nervous as Thae. He immediately signed the travel permit, and Thae rushed to Royal Albert Hall. But by then, the best seat had already been bought up by ticket agencies. Thae hurried back to the embassy to report the situation. The ambassador, now even more anxious, decided to use diplomatic channel to secure the tickets. And in the end, they managed to complete this task successfully. Now you might wonder, why did they need 4 tickets in the center and 2 on the sides? It was because Kim Jong-chul liked to move seats during the concert, so he could adjust his view depending on where he felt most comfortable. Soon, the second order arrived. Thae was instructed to book 2 suites at the Savoy Hotel in London, each with a 2-bedroom and a living room. Of course, he didn't dare just to pick rooms based on photos online. He went there in person to confirm. But we're talking about the Savoy, one of London's most luxurious hotels. Even though each suite costs around €2,000 per night, every single one of that room type had already been booked out. No matter how hard Thae tried to negotiate, the hotel just simply couldn't free up any more rooms. He felt anxious and conflicted, because he knew the Kim's family's rule: they don't take no for an answer. Fortunately, Thae got a bit lucky. His master Kim Jong-chul was not like his father or brother. He was softer, more gentle, let's just say a mild-mannered man. When Thae reported the situation, another order immediately followed. If the original suites were unavailable, then book any luxury suite with a view of the River Thames. So Thae set off again, rushing from one 5-star hotel to another along the riverbank. Finally, he found the perfect spot: a 2-bedroom suite at the Chelsea Harbour Hotel, overlooking the Thames, for $2,000 per night. As he walked back to the embassy, his heart felt heavy. $2,000 a night, that was more than 2 months of his salary, and it reminded him of something that happened a long time ago. Back when he had just begun his career as a North Korean diplomat abroad, it was 1997, during what North Koreans called the Arduous March. The country was suffering from severe famine. People were starving to death everywhere. At the time, Kim Jong-il ordered his diplomats overseas to lobby for food aid. Thae Yong-ho, then stationed at the North Korea embassy in Denmark, began contacting organizations for help. One day, out of nowhere, the Danish Red Cross reached out. They told him a company in Denmark had produced 3,200 tons of feta cheese for Iran. But because of UN sanctions, the shipment was stuck in port warehouses, and the company was willing to donate the entire batch to North Korea for free. However, North Korea didn't even have the ship or fuel to retrieve the donation. But when Thae thought of the malnourished kids in North Korea, he was determined not to lose this rare chance. He requested a meeting with the company's CEO and pleaded, "Sir, I truly appreciate your generous offer, but our government currently has no means to transport the cheese. You have probably seen on TV, tens of thousands of North Korean kids are suffering from malnutrition. If this feta cheese could reach them, it would save many lives. Please imagine if it were your own child starving. I beg you, please help us." The CEO understood immediately. It was clear what Thae was really asking to cover the shipping and the transport costs as well. And to Thae's surprise, the CEO stood up, nodded and said, "For the starving children of North Korea, our company will pay for everything." That means 3,200 tons of feta cheese worth over $32 million, plus transport cost a total exceeding $33 million US. Thae was overwhelmed with gratitude, holding back tears as he thanked the man repeatedly. But later, when he was recalled to Pyongyang, he learned the bitter truth. The cheese never reached North Korean children. Instead, it became gifts for the general. Kim Jong-un distributed to military offer during his field inspections. The Ministry of People's Armed Forces even held tasting sessions and cooking demonstrations. Soldiers described it as salty and soft, like a tofu soaked in brine. That feta cheese meant for starving children became a luxury snack to boost soldiers' strength. And that was the first time Thae felt true doubt and disappointment toward the North Korean regime and the Kim family. When Kim Jong-un later asked him, "Do you have any requests for the party?" Thae wanted to speak up, to say something for the hungry children, but the words caught in his throat. In the end, all he could manage to say was, "Please allow my wife to join the party." Then came the third directive, to select 10 tourist attractions in London and submit the list for approval. Thae chose landmarks like Trafalgar Square, the London Eye, and the Buckingham Palace. And he also added the UK Parliament to the list. Why the Parliament? He thought that if Kim Jong-chul visited Parliament, he could take the opportunity to explain how Britain's democratic system actually worked, hoping that maybe one day, if Kim Jong-chul ever came to power, he might be inspired to bring constitutional reform to North Korea. But North Koreans, even those working at the embassy in London, looked down on British Parliament. They thought the MPs were a joke, constantly mocking each other, shouting across the chamber. To them, the kind of chaos meant no discipline, no authority. They would say, if this is how they treat their leaders, how can Britain still be a world power? Luckily, Kim Jong-chul didn't think that way. Thae's list of landmarks was approved in full. Soon another order came down, to recommend a fine dining restaurant in London. That's when Thae hit a wall. Think about it. He was a North Korean diplomat making less than $1,000 a month. How could he possibly know where the best restaurants are in London? So he did what any desperate man would do. He scoured the internet like crazy, compiling a list of Japanese, Italian, French, and time-side dinner cruises to submit. But this time, Kim Jong-chul was not impressed. Shortly after, he gave a new instruction to book tables at a restaurant inside the Shard and at an upscale Spanish restaurant in central London. On May 19, 2015, Kim Jong-chul finally arrived in London. The moment he got into the car, he said, "Take me to Oxford Street, I want to buy some records." But it was already 10 p.m., and Oxford Street was at least an hour away. The record stores had long since closed. But Thae was smart. He knew he couldn't just say no to Kim Jong-chul. So instead, he asked the local driver, "When do record stores usually close?" The driver replied, "They should be shut by now." So Thae gently told Kim Jong-chul, "Maybe it's better to go first thing in the morning." But Kim Jong-chul, almost pleading, said, "Please, just tonight, I really want to go." At that point, Thae had no choice but to signal the driver to go. By the time they reached Oxford Street, it was nearly 11 p.m. Kim Jong-chul looked at his watch and muttered, "Do you think they will still be open?" They drove around for a while, but not a single record store had its lights on. It's such a disappointing moment. Kim Jong-chul sighed deeply and said, "Let's just go back to the hotel." After arriving at the hotel, Kim Jong-chul called Thae Yong-ho to his room. He handed him a pair of trousers and said, "I spilled red wine on this during the flight. Have them cleaned, I need them for tomorrow." But it was already 1 a.m., and this was London, not Pyongyang. Where on the earth was Thae supposed to find a dry cleaner in the middle of the night? So he carefully suggested, "Sir, there is no place open right now. If you need them tomorrow, perhaps we can buy an identical pair instead." Kim Jong-chul clearly wasn't happy, probably still frustrated about not getting his records earlier. He frowned and said, "How can a city as big as London not have a 24-hour laundry? I only wear these pants. Go figure it out." One more word from Thae might have angered him, so he simply said, "Understood," and left the room with the pants in his hands. Down in the lobby, the ambassador and the rest of the delegation were still waiting. When they heard the order, the ambassador immediately told everyone, "No one is sleeping tonight. Get out there and search the city. I don't care how, find a dry cleaner that's still open before sunrise." By around 4 a.m., they finally found a large 24-hour laundry, and the pants were cleaned and returned right away. When Thae looked at those perfectly pressed trousers, he couldn't help thinking, when the party decides something must be done, nothing in the world is impossible. But then a chill ran through him. What kind of diplomat am I? He thought. I'm not serving my country. I'm just working for Kim family like a servant. The next morning, when Kim Jong-chul woke up and saw his freshly pressed trousers hanging neatly in the closet, he smiled in satisfaction. "You actually got them cleaned," he said. "I knew you could do it." Thae didn't dare take all credits. He quickly explained that it wasn't just him. Everyone at the embassy had gone out searching all night to find that dry cleaner. Hearing that, Kim Jong-chul seemed genuinely pleased. He ordered everyone to gather together, then took out a bottle of whiskey from the minibar, poured glasses for the embassy staff, and said in Korean, "Mashura," meaning drink up. It's a command used by a superior to subordinate when toasting. Everyone raised their glasses and drank in unison. When Thae finished his drink, he tried to politely refill Kim Jong-chul's glass, but Kim waved his hand and declined. Then out of nowhere, Kim Jong-chul said something quietly. "Before I left to Pyongyang, my younger brother made me drink with him." Younger brother, yeah, that's Kim Jong-un. During that drinking session, Kim Jong-un kept saying to his brother, "Drink up," over and over again. The same command from a superior to a subordinate. Thae later wrote, "Sometimes there is nothing colder than royal blood." Even though they were full brothers, born of the same mother and raised together, their relationship had long changed from brothers to ruler and subject. So when Kim Jong-un told Kim Jong-chul to drink, it wasn't a brotherly toast, it was an order. And Kim Jong-chul, of course, didn't dare to refuse. He drank glass after glass, following his brother's command, until he was completely drunk. Later he muttered bitterly, "I can't even handle alcohol," but he kept saying drink up. What could I do? After leaving the hotel, Kim Jong-chul headed straight to Oxford Street to buy records. And Kim Jong-chul bought a whole bunch. Comparing with last night, he was very happy. And by noon, the group went to a luxury restaurant at the Shard, which Thae had booked earlier. But Kim Jong-chul didn't seem to have much of an appetite. After a few bites, he said, "I'm going out for a smoke." The problem was the restaurant was on 31st floor. To smoke, he would have to go all the way down to the street level, which meant the entire security team would have to move with him. A huge and risky scene. So Kim Jong-chul said, "Fine, I will just smoke in the restroom then." And before anyone could stop him, he walked straight in. Thae was terrified. He stood anxiously outside and praying, "Please don't trigger the fire alarm, please." If the fire alarm went off, Kim Jong-chul's secret visit to London would be splashed all over the news because something as stupid as smoking in a restroom. Fortunately, the alarm never sounded. Kim Jong-chul came out calmly, as if nothing happened. After lunch, they got back in the car. He lit another cigarette, and another, and soon his mood brightened. He even started humming a song. No one knew what he was singing, but everyone agreed he actually had a pretty good voice. When he finished, he turned to Thae and said, "Your turn, sing something." So Thae sang a classic song called My Way, and halfway through the song, Kim Jong-chul joined in, smiling, singing along, even helping Thae when he forgot a few lyrics. But as he sang, Thae noticed something. A faint gleam of tears in Kim Jong-chul's eyes. Soon the car arrived at the UK Parliament, a key stop that Thae had personally planned. As they stood before the statues of Churchill and Gandhi, Thae explained how the British admired both men, and how Parliament embodied tolerance and democratic balance. But Kim Jong-chul suddenly gave him a strange look, a quiet, unreadable stare. Thae's heart skipped a beat. For a moment he wondered. He might have said something that offended him. The next stop, the London Eye. But before the car even started moving, Kim Jong-chul suddenly asked, "Is there a place in London that sells musical instruments?" He mentioned a specific guitar brand and said he wanted to check if they had any in stock. The problem was none of those people in the car had any ideas about guitars. Thankfully, the British driver saved the day. He said, "You should try Denmark Street. That's where all the best music shops are." As soon as they arrived Denmark Street, Kim Jong-un's face lit up, like he had just walked into heaven. He stepped into a small guitar shop, picked up a guitar, and began to play spontaneously. His performance was professional level, so much so that the shop owner came over, joined in, and started playing next to him. The two of them connected instantly, both around 30 years old, both clearly musicians at heart. The driver leaned over and whispered to Thae, "These shop owners, they run their shops by day, but at night they perform in pubs. Your friend is really talented." The shop owner, visibly impressed, asked Kim Jong-Chul, "Where did you learn to play like that? If you are free tonight, want to come jam with me at the pub?" You could see it on Kim's face. He really wanted to say yes, but of course, he couldn't. He and the owner talked for a long time about Eric Clapton. Pure, genuine musical passion. At one point, the owner even shared a secret. The guitar you're looking for, there is one available in a small town, about 100 kilometers away. Before they knew it, it was already at 5 p.m. Clapton's concert was at 7, and they still had to eat. So Thae gently interrupted, suggesting they should head over to the restaurant he had booked. But Kim, in high spirit, just waved it off. "I like having McDonald's." At McDonald's, Thae tried to order for Kim. But Kim smiled and said, "It's fine, Comrade Thae, I will do it myself." And there he was, a man who had grown up in one of the world's most secretive regimes, enjoying his burgers and fries like a kid, probably the happiest meal he had in years. Before entering the concert hall, Kim's mood was sky high. He bought a pile of Eric Clapton's merch, t-shirt, posters, everything. But just then, one of the staff whispered nervously, "We need to go in now. Someone's taking photos from behind that pillar." That night at the Royal Albert Hall, Kim Jong-chul was completely immersed in the music. So much so that he kept moving between seats, switching places with North Korean staff beside him, just to get a better view of his idol, Eric Clapton. As the music played, Kim Jong-chul stood up, clapped passionately, so thrilled that he even raised his hands high in the air. All the way back to the hotel, he could barely contain his excitement. He suggested, "Let's celebrate, let's have a drink." So everyone went back to their rooms, raided their minibars, and brought out all the alcohols they could find. That night, they drank until the bottles were empty. But in the early hours of the morning, Thae was woken by a panic call from the ambassador. "Turn on the news, now!" On TV, Japanese media had just broadcast footage of Kim Jong-chul at the Eric Clapton's concert, the same image that would later circulate around the world. Needless to say, the whole world exploded. Kim Jong-chul, a fan of Eric Clapton? Why was he been living such a hidden life? How is he suddenly able to travel abroad so freely? The entire North Korean delegation woke up with pounding headaches from both alcohol and panic. Everyone was tense, knowing that Kim Jong-un had surely seen the news by now. But no instructions came from Pyongyang as of yet. Later, Park Song-hak, the third-floor secretary accompanying them, carefully asked, "If we were recalled, should we prepare to leave immediately?" It was a polite way of asking Kim Jong-chul whether he still planned to attend the second day of the concert. Kim Jong-chul replied firmly, "We have come all this way. Of course, we're gonna go. You think I would leave before it's over? No way." Park had no choice but to report that back to Pyongyang. And still silence. No further orders. So the group proceeded with their next day's itinerary. Their first stop, that small town the guitar shop owner had mentioned. For Thae, it was like stepping into a hidden world, a two-story guitar superstore tucked away in the countryside. Kim Jong-chul turned to him, eyes gleaming. "You know, I once sent telegrams to embassies around the world trying to find this guitar, but no one could find it." He picked up the guitar, sat down, and began to play, for nearly 40 minutes straight. Even Thae, who didn't know much about music, was mesmerized. When Park Song-hak offered to pay for the guitar, Kim shook his head and said he would buy it himself. Apparently they had a system. Expenses for meals and official activities came from the third-floor budget. But a personal item had to be paid by Kim Jong-chul himself. The guitar cost £2,400. Not an extravagant instrument. But for Kim Jong-chul, it was the guitar of his dreams. When Thae offered to carry it, Kim refused. He insisted on shouldering it himself. In the car, he held it tightly in his arms, like a father holding his newborn child. He was genuinely happy, constantly thanking everyone around him. His joy was so infectious that even the usually cold North Korean staff couldn't help but smile. After buying the guitar, Park Song-hak also received new instruction from Pyongyang. First, no official visits or diplomatic requests to the British government. Everything must stay low profile and unofficial. Second, the concert hall will be packed with reporters. You must disguise yourself. Go buy sunglasses and hats immediately. So the entire embassy team went out again, shopping for sunglasses and hats. But then, unexpectedly, Kim Jong-chul said he also wanted to stop by the children's clothing section. He said, "I couldn't go all the way to London and not bring back something for my kids. People would call me a bad father." It was then Thae realized something. Kim Jong-chul was already married with children, a fact completely unknown to the outside world. Thae intentionally kept his distance, carefully not to overhear or notice too much. He feared that even the size or the style of children's clothes might reveal secrets he was not supposed to know. Soon it was time for dinner. Kim Jong-chul, as usual, waved his hand and said, "Let's just eat McDonald's." After the meal, as they arrived at the concert hall, the place was already swarming with reporters. Since there was no other way, they had to force their way inside. That's the very scene caught in the news footage we saw at the beginning. Inside the concert hall, it was the same. Journalists everywhere, flashing cameras, whispering gases. It almost felt like Kim Jong-chul, not Eric Clapton, was the star of the night. But once the concert started, despite the chaos, Kim sat there utterly absorbed in the music, just as lost in as the night before. After the concert, as they entered in the hotel through the underground parking lots, they found a camera waiting there too. So the ambassador went ahead to distract the reporters, while Thae and Kim Jong-chul slipped away to a small hotel near the airport. Once they arrived at the hotel, they finally avoided the media's eyes. The next morning, as Kim's plane was about to take off, he turned to Thae, shook his hand tightly and said, "Comrade Minister, you have really worked hard on this trip. When we get back home, dinner's on me." Thae smiled and replied, "Thank you, sir. I'll be looking forward to it." That moment marked the end of their 61 hours together. Kim Jong-chul always addressed him formally as Comrade Minister, and that final promise of a shared dinner made Thae feel an unexpected sense of honor. After hearing all this, you can probably see it too. Although Kim Jong-chul and Kim Jong-un are brothers, their personalities and the way they handle things couldn't be more different. According to Kenshi Fujimoto, Kim Jong-il's personal chef, there was one time when Kim Jong-un was playing a board game with their cousin. Kim Jong-chul came over to help his little brother to strategize, but they still lost. In anger, Kim Jong-un grabbed the game pieces and threw them at his brother's face, blaming him for the loss. Kim Jong-chul, on the other hand, just simply kept his smile and said nothing. Both brothers loved basketball. After each match, Kim Jong-chul would thank his teammates, saying things like, "Good game everybody, you guys played well." But Kim Jong-un would demand a post-game review, criticize others' mistakes, and even mock those he wanted to humiliate. And that is exactly why Kim Jong-il chose Kim Jong-un and not Kim Jong-chul to be his successor. From these stories alone, you can sense it. Kim Jong-chul was simply not built to be a dictator. He was polite, humble, gentle, and someone who loved music more than politics. A kind-hearted soul, but one who could never control others, nor rule through fear. If Kim Jong-il had ever passed the throne to him, then sooner or later, the Kim dynasty would have collapsed in his hand. You might wonder, why would someone as high-ranking as Thae Yong-ho, a trusted diplomat, a man personally close to Kim Jong-chul, ever decide to defect from North Korea? Well, it all comes down to his sons and his family. After spending 61 hours with Kim Jong-chul, Thae finally returned home. He was exhausted, yet exhilarated. He couldn't wait to share his incredible experience with his family. But his kids, who had grown up overseas, were not impressed. "That's it? I thought you wanted to do something important, and it turns out you were just hosting Kim Jong-chul?" Thae was stunned. His sons went on. "Back home, they make ordinary people suffer through the arduous march. Anyone caught listening to the capitalist music get expelled from university. Yet, this elite spend millions of dollars to chase Western rock star? How is that even fair?" Thae was speechless. The Kim family, whom he had revered almost like gods, suddenly appeared hollow in the eyes of his own kids. To them, that was not pride, it was shame. That night, Thae went to bed with a deep, uneasy feeling in his heart. Both of his sons were born and raised abroad. And by then, his eldest was already studying in college. Thae knew his kids were different. He had spent 50 years rising from the bottom of North Korean society, working tirelessly for the privilege to serve the Kim family. He had witnessed unimaginable cruelty and believed his British-educated sons would never be able to endure the horror of the North Korean system. He feared that if they ever went back, they would never survive, because they were simply too human. In his memoir, Thae Yong-ho shared 3 stories from his childhood. The first one happened when he was in elementary school. He had a best friend named Jong-Chul, a boy who was incredibly good at playing traditional Korean paper flipping game. One day, a crowd of kids gathered around as Jong-Chul kept winning, his pile of cards growing higher and higher. But their excitement drew the attention of the passing security officer, who stopped to check what was going on. The officer asked, "Whose cards are this?" Jong-Chul proudly replied, "They are mine." The officer picked up one card, flipped it over, and on the back was a portrait of Kim Il-sung. All the other children gasped and screamed, except for Jong-Chul, who stood there in shock. The officer didn't say much, just quietly asked where Jong-Chul lived, and walked away with the card in his hand. That night, they could hear wailing coming from Jong-Chul's house. And a few days later, word spread through the neighborhood. His entire family had been exiled to the countryside. The second story happened when Thae was applying for college. There was a top student he could never surpass, Han Cho-bong. Han was the youth league chairman in high school, brilliant, disciplined, and admired by everybody. He studied French in the university, and after graduation, because of exceptional talent, he was immediately recruited by the Ministry of Trade. Not long after, he was transferred to a special agency in China, and within just a few years, he rose through the ranks, eventually becoming the chief financial officer for Kim Jong-un, the eldest son of Kim Jong-il. But when Kim Jong-un came to power, he began a brutal purge of anyone associated with the half-brother's circle. Han was summoned back to Pyongyang and then simply vanished. No one ever heard from him again. Even his wife and children were sent to a political prison camp. And for what crime? For nothing more than being loyal to the fallen heir Kim Jong-un. The third story happened years later, when Thae Yong-ho was already serving as diplomat abroad. He had a close friend named Pak Song-chol, the son of a high official from South Pyongyang province, a true second-generation elite. During the so-called cheese incident that we mentioned earlier, both Tan and Pak was summoned back to Pyongyang. Shortly after returning, Pak was detained. Here is what happened. During the arduous march, Pak's father wanted to improve the food supply for workers at the local munition factory. To do that, he sold leftover metal powder from artillery shells to China in exchange for food. But the person handled the sale embezzled money, and when Pak's father found out, he fired him. Out of revenge, the man reported the case to the Ministry of State Security. At the same time, Kim Jong-il, desperate to maintain control over his officials during the famine, was carrying out a brutal purge. Pak's father was arrested and executed, and Pak himself, who stationed abroad at the time, was summoned home for questioning. To prevent his family from escaping, the regime ordered Pak to return first, and later told his wife and son to come back to clarify the situation. When Thae arrived at the North Korean embassy in Sweden, he saw Pak's young son running out first, crying "Daddy, Daddy," only to realize that his father was not there. That moment breaks Thae's heart. Moment later, Pak's wife came out. The moment she saw Thae standing alone, she burst into tears. She already knew what had happened. Through her tears, she said she would return to North Korea with her son, to live and die alongside with her husband. They went back, and after that, there was no more news of them. That was when Thae finally understood the truth. When he looked at his own 2 sons, safe, free, living under a different sky, he realized just how close he had come to losing everything he loved. Then came March 2016, 9 months after Thae Yong-ho's encounter with Kim Jong-chul. That month in Ningbo, China, 13 North Korean restaurant workers defected together in one of the most shocking escapes in decades. The incident sent shockwaves through Pyongyang. The third floor, North Korea's elite control department, immediately issued an order. All children of foreign diplomats must return to North Korea once they reach 25. But Thae's eldest son was already 26. There will be no more exception, no more loopholes. So in silence, Thae and his family of 4 held one final family meeting and made their decision. They boarded a plane and left the cage behind forever. I have personally read many defector stories, but Thae Yong-ho is perhaps the most extraordinary of them all. Most defectors escape on foot, risking their lives across mountains and rivers, dodging border guards in China. Even if they make it to South Korea, their family left behind are often imprisoned in labor camps. But Thae's escape was very different. He didn't crawl through the dark or swim across frozen rivers. He flew with his entire family. And he didn't just survive, he thrived. Today, Thae Yong-ho is an elected member of South Korean National Assembly, a man who once served the Kim regime, now serving democracy itself. And that is the story of Thae Yong-ho. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, hype, and subscribe. With that, I will see you in the next one.